And then I saw an attempt on his life. This bullet flew by his ear, and it came so close to his head that it busted his eardrum. And I saw he fell to his knees during this time frame, and he started worshiping the Lord. He got radically born again during this time frame. And then I saw him winning the election, and then there will be a great economy crash. Yeah. I saw they had a great economy plan, a crash, worse than the Great Depression. And the Lord warned me about this. It would be a great dark time.
I think about 3.5 years ago, I started hearing the language, winter's coming, prepare for winter. I mean, there's now getting cuckoo on here, but I don't know that from my biblical worldview, I don't know that we're going to be on this earth extremely much longer.
You think the end times are coming?
I do.
Like in our lifetime?
I do.
Whoa, baby.
All right, dude. So I know we were going to do an episode on relationships and gender roles. We're going to do that next week.
Yeah.
Because the news is crazy, dude.
Yeah, it's wild.
Insane. The tariffs, China. I think Trump is putting a 125%.
125 is what I saw.
Yeah. Tariff on anything coming from China, and then they're doing an 85% tariff. Is that what it is?
Who is?
China
on
to
us?
The U.S.? Yeah.
I haven't seen what they're doing on us.
Okay.
Yeah.
But and then Trump put a tariff on everyone.
Yes.
And then he put a 90-day pause to see what we can do.
Yes.
And then, because the stock market was plummeting.
Yes.
And then
People
did this.
Were freaking out.
Yeah. And they should have bought.
Yes.
But everyone started selling.
Yes.
And then just a couple of days later, everything's up.
Yes.
And but it's still very uncertain because...
Very volatile. Yes.
Exactly. We don't know what's going to happen in 90 days. Will he stick to it? Will he change? He's trying to negotiate. So I was telling you before we started, I think Trump is motivated by making history. I don't think he's wanting to walk away from the White House with the most amount of money. I don't think he wants, this is his last stop. And he wants to make sure people remember him, I think. How do you see it?
I don't think he's motivated by money.
I don't think so.
In the least.
Yeah.
He would have walked away a long time ago if it was about money. Man, is it about power? A lot of people might claim that. However, I think a power-hungry person would have reacted or responded differently to being shot.
Yeah.
I think there would be a more fearful, self-preservation-based, instinctual response. Unless you knew that was going to happen, you thought through how you were going to respond just to produce an emotion or a reaction. He came up not thinking about himself, but thinking about the people.
Yeah.
And rallied. And so I think he truly does want to leave our country in a better place than he found it, and absolutely revolutionize our country.
Yeah.
I think he wants to squash out the potential of, at least in the next few generations, our country becoming socialist or taking over or becoming number two.
Yeah.
So.
We were talking about that. So I think if we don't do anything drastic, we will be number two in about, probably 8 to 10 years. That's my guess.
One more thing I wanted to add is I think that, like you're asking what he's motivated by, I think deep down he believes it's his destiny to save America.
I think so too.
And he's driven by that.
Right.
Like it's his calling, his obsession,
right,
his purpose, and he's going to lay his life down for it.
Yeah.
So he's driven by destiny.
Right.
Like by maybe divine assignment in his mind.
Yeah.
That's why he's unstoppable.
Mm-hmm. And politics is funny, man, because I don't think Trump is afraid of being disliked or unpopular. I mean, you saw him in 2016. Prior to that, everyone loved him. He didn't have a problem with being hated in order to become president. but it's a little bit different now because if he loses popularity, he's going to lose the Senate. And right now he controls everything. And it's a game of chess because you need to make unpopular decisions while not losing your popularity with the country, so that you can contain, keep the control of the Senate. So it's so interesting. So how do you balance that? You think it's your destiny, but at the same time, you need to be strategic about how you roll this out. And I hear him answering questions all the time. Like when Biden was president, like he didn't really answer any questions or talk to the press. And now, like, they're asking him about all these things, and so much is happening. And he's just so cool, like a cucumber, dude. Just like, yeah, we're going to do it. We're going to move it to 90 days. And he just does not seem bothered. So I don't know if he's been so used to, handling stress like this. But even then, I mean, the stress of being president and doing what he's doing is not something that anyone's done in the past. So it's, I don't know. It's admirable to see him, how he's dealing with it. I am concerned that it may backfire, and that's the part where I don't understand. Like, is he a little bit nervous? Because he makes it's. I mean, this is a game of chess, and you make the wrong move, you lose, and there's no coming back from that. So, how do you process this? Do you think he's got it together? You think is it risky what he's doing? Would you do it differently?
You brought up something interesting offline. About this guy who had this prophecy, who predicted what Trump's assassination attempt, among some other things. Remind me, what are some of the details of that?
It was really interesting. So this guy on YouTube, very obscure YouTube channel, months before he was shot at, he said, I saw Trump in a dream or a vision. I don't know if he was sleeping or awake, but the point is that he saw him getting shot in the ear, and that he just held his ear. He thought it was his eardrum because he just saw a lot of blood coming out. And he says he went down. When he went down, he would be radically, converted. And he said, a lot of people say he's Christian, but when he gets shot and he goes down, he really, converts and he really becomes very, very close with God. By the time he goes up, he's a different Trump. Then he said, I saw this wave of patriotism in the country, and he's going to win. He's going to get elected. And when he gets elected, we're going to take a nosedive economically. And he said, I saw Trump. He was skinny. He was stressed. And he was trying to piece together the economy. He goes, but like anything that's been broken and you try to piece back together, it's just never the same. So he said, that's going to happen to the economy. It'll never be what it used to be. But he'll make it work. And he was just trying to make it work. And then he said, I saw people praying over him in the Oval Office. I don't know if they were senators or pastors or who they were, but there are a lot of people in suits praying over him in the Oval Office. So it really struck me because I've never seen anybody predict something. I mean, I've never seen a president get shot like he got shot. And then someone predicted so detailed right before it happened. And then all these other things after it. So it makes you wonder, if he was right about that, are we about to hit a depression next?
What else is he right about?
Exactly.
And I think if we're talking about the same guy, he's the same guy that like was in a trance or in a dream, got a vision of 3 letters XRP, which happens to be Bitcoin. And he says, I see it going up, spiking, and a lot of people making a lot of money. And it happened. Which is strange, okay? Right? I guess God can speak to anybody about anything. But when there's a series of patterns of predictions and it comes to pass, causes me to lean in a little bit, regardless of what my belief is. So I guess the thing that hasn't happened is, or potentially could be happening, is this recession, which people don't like to talk about. Makes a lot of people feel uncomfortable and frankly afraid. What do you feel like is going down?
Well, I think we've been in a recession. I don't know if we're technically in one right now, but with Biden, we were in one. I think what's coming could be a depression where it lasts longer than a recession does. And it takes a lot longer to recover from it, like, in the Great Depression. And I think this is going to be something that we feel globally. It won't be just in the U.S. because all the economies are, connected. So I do think that could happen. But I'm not, I'm one to I take it with a grain of salt. I prepare, and here's how I make my decisions. And I'm curious to see how you deal with it. I don't invest in the stock market, or else I probably would have bought a lot when the stock market went down, because to me it makes sense.
Yes.
And the reason I don't is I don't really understand the stock market.
Yes.
I don't typically invest in anything I don't understand.
Right.
So
You ever read Richest Man in Babylon?
no.
Okay.
What is it? A show? A movie?
It's a book.
Okay.
It's a book about like having a financial philosophy. It's like a really ancient book that a lot of these
Gotcha.
guys base their. It's kind of a foundational book on how to build wealth. But one of the philosophies are don't invest in things you don't understand.
Makes sense.
And so interesting. I was just curious.
No, for sure. So, but how I look at what I'm doing. So I'm growing a business. I'm looking at, growing adjacent businesses that kind of feed off of each other. And I also feel like you say, you think Trump feels like it's his destiny.
Yes.
I also feel like there's destiny and there's purpose in my life. And I didn't get here by myself, and it's not about me. And as long as I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, even if everything goes down, the story still continues. There's
Yes.
something for me to do.
Yes.
So there might be a period of time where maybe I'm not as lucky or as blessed economically as I am right now, but it doesn't mean that the story stops and ends and that's it. So I don't worry about it too much, man. When I watch the news sometimes, will it get to me? Yes. But then I think about it. I'm like, dude, I can't control it. I can't really predict it. It's interesting that this guy does, predict these things,
Yes,
and some of
yes.
them have come to fruition. But what am I supposed to do? Well, I feel like I'm supposed to continue to grow the business. I'm supposed to continue to do these activities. So I'm just going to do that. And God is going to continue to open the doors. And if something happens, I'll pivot and God will show me the way. And I mean, maybe I'm too dumb, and we were
understand.
talking about that the last episode. I think entrepreneurs, sometimes we don't weigh all the negative things. And that's also what allows us to keep moving forward and not,
And that's
be
how we
frozen.
get started in the first place.
Correct,
Because
yeah.
if we did weigh all the negative things, we'd never go.
You would never go, yeah. How do you look at that? Because you're also growing a business. Does it change your decision making on how much you invest in it, what you're doing with it? Do you say, well, maybe I go this direction instead if the economy does go down?
I think about 3.5 years ago, I started hearing the language, winter is coming, prepare for winter, right?
Yeah.
And I think I've maintained that psychology of there's going to be this downturn coming.
Yeah.
So how do we position ourselves when everything's freezing, which means, in context of winter, people are getting frozen outside, that we are running a freaking ski resort,
Yeah.
right? We are not just surviving, but we are thriving, and we are helping people thrive. So I'm thinking about how can I position my business to be an asset and not just survive the winter, but leverage it and
Yeah.
thrive during it. So I think I'm trying to, and this is partially unconscious, build my business in a way to capitalize on winter coming.
Makes sense.
So if you expect it and it doesn't happen, then I lose nothing.
Right.
But if I anticipate it and it does, then I am 10 steps ahead than
Yeah.
everybody else. And I what's the number on how many Fortune 500 companies become so always during a depression or recession?
Mm-hmm.
That's when the creativity, that's when the board shifts. That's when everything gets thrown in the air.
Yeah.
And those that are prepared and have the right mind frame and are prepared for winter thrive and go up.
Yeah.
So I believe that winter is coming.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's going to look like. Is it going to look like nuclear war, asteroid, economic, all of these different things that are actual potential items, right? I don't know. And this could be a different thing or a different topic, but the NASA has predicted a near miss asteroid in 2029. Have you heard
Really?
about that?
No, I have not.
Yeah, people have been talking about it for years.
Huh.
For years. I think some guy has prophesied about it, and he calls it Apophis.
Yeah.
So like a ancient dragon asteroid that should hit somewhere around, if NASA calculates it correctly, around the U.S. and they thought it was going to be a hit, and they're now predicting a near miss in like April 2029, something of that nature.
Where in the U.S.
So-
have they been able to predict that or no?
Between California, Texas, like in that space, was what it was last time I looked into it deeply, which was about
Right.
2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
However, that more and more people are becoming aware of that, thinking about it.
Right.
So anything could stink and happen. Like if something like that were to happen, it would change the course of our nation forever
Right.
for the economic ramifications of something like that.
No, that's super interesting because it would change the way that you probably spend your time, right?
Yes.
If you knew that was going to happen. So because we don't, I choose to have faith in that what I'm doing is not what I want to do, but is what I'm supposed to do. So that to me gives me the peace to stay focused, and I trust that as God is kind of putting in my heart to go left, go right, that it's going to take me in the right path for when all these things happen. Like the asteroid won't hit me, the
Yes.
economy won't affect me as much, but I will say, to your point of taking advantage of the economic downturn, Andrew Carnegie became very wealthy during one of those times. And a lot of millionaires and billionaires were made during times like
Yes.
this, because when everyone panics, just a few people are able to see the opportunity in that panic. Even COVID, a lot of people made a lot of money in COVID while everybody was afraid, because they saw, pockets where they could, capitalize. So for me, dude, I help people grow their YouTube channels. So I think that when times are bad, people are going to be on their phones. They're going to be consuming content. They're
Yes.
going to be glued to the screen.
Yes.
And when people are glued to the screen, sponsors pay money to advertise. So I'm not too worried. Now, if I was in a business where I felt like it could affect me, maybe I would consider. But I don't know. How have you thought about how your business could be affected and how you could pivot it to capitalize on a moment like that?
I think I don't know that I think the biggest competitor or thing that we need to be aware of in business. Now, this is not based on data. This is based on instinct.
Yeah.
Okay. I do operate a lot on instinct.
Yeah.
As I think that you do as well.
Yeah.
Which is you just have this knowing that it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Or you have this knowing that you need to go left or right or work with this person.
Right.
AI is going to be a huge deal in the next 3 to 5 years. And it's
Yeah.
going to shake things that no one ever thought possible.
Yep.
Okay. My industry and what I'm building is, at least for the next 15 years or so, projected, it's an AI proof sort of situation.
Right.
People are going to need more and more desiring human connection as they get their functional stuff done through AI.
There you go.
I'm going to be providing something that people are needing that AI can't quite give.
Right.
Okay. So that's what I think my biggest competitor and asset is going to be. Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't think my biggest threat would be economic downturn, but rather like AI. So that's something that I'm thinking about. However, in context of that instinct, like, do you feel like, I mean, ask you personally, that if in the next year we were to go into a depression, say you knew depression was going to happen this next year, how does that make you feel emotionally?
I think there's moments of uncertainty and fear is sort of attached to that. But overall, I always just default to that. Well, I didn't get here on my own.
Yes.
I never thought I'd be doing this as a business. I never thought I'd be living here. And like every decision I've made that led me here wasn't my idea to begin with.
Yeah.
So I feel like if something does happen like that, I'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a way, does it give you a little spark of excitement?
It does. Yeah. Because it's going to be something new. It's going to be something challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the crazy
Right.
in a guy that's kind of like integrated into his masculine, where you see the movie 300,
Right.
and they're saying our arrows will blot out the sun.
Yeah.
Which is like, you're all going to die in one volley of arrows.
Yeah.
And what do the Spartans do?
We'll fight
They
in the shade.
grin ear to ear. Their big white teeth. They get so excited because they're like, we're freaking born for this.
Yeah.
This is going to unleash us.
Yeah.
Right. We'll fight in the shade.
Yeah.
Right. Right. So I think if you can get a little bit excited with uncertainty,
Yeah.
like when you were a little boy, you're like, man, I think part of me just wished that someone would punch my dad so I could see my dad fight.
Yeah.
Or I wish someone would push my girl so I could deck him in the face, right?
Yeah.
We're like built for
Makes sense.
that uncertainty.
Yeah.
And if we're not feeling that, we're kind of out of alignment with our core.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of guys know, that are even listening right now. They know deep down, they know something's going to happen.
Yeah.
They don't know what's going to happen, but when it happens, it's our time to rise.
Yeah,
This
I
is what
believe it.
I'm freaking born for.
Yeah. And The awesome and fun thing about it is that I think it's been so easy to make a lot of money and be an entrepreneur and build businesses that a lot of people have been able to do pretty well without having the fundamentals. So these times are going to prune the ones that actually have what it takes from the ones that just got lucky. And so that's going to, like the pie is this big. It's going to go to the ones that are still around. So the ones that have the fundamentals that have developed that discipline, I think are going to make a lot more money than they were. So, but yeah, man, I'm excited like you are. Like, who knows what this is going to look like? I'm looking at AI and then robotics attached to AI, and that's going to change everything. I mean, labor is going to, come down, and there's going to be crazy unemployment. You're actually going to have to develop skills that can't be replaced by AI. And I think that the human connection and networking like that is a big component. But yeah, I'm excited, man. Yeah. I really don't know what it actually will look like, but it's going to be different. It's going to be challenging.
But deep down, you know it's what you're born for.
Of course.
Like if something, I don't know if it's a war with China, if it's a global war, if it's economic crisis, everybody, I think every man in touch with his core knows something's going to go down.
Yeah.
And when it goes down, it's like, all right, it's time to fight in the shade.
Yeah.
This is why I exist. And it's going to, I'm not saying it in a strange or corrupt way. It makes you happy because it's your purpose.
Right.
And I think and Trump operates in a similar form.
Yeah.
He's like, I was born to be shot at for my country.
Yeah.
This is fulfilling maybe this childhood purpose.
Yeah.
That's been locked inside of me. That's now being unleashed.
Yeah.
And that's why has so much certainty, as the whole world's eyes are right on him.
For sure. Now, question is, will the American people, by and large, have that attitude? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
And so that makes me think.
Once it hurts enough, I
Correct.
think it'll
drop off. I think as a people, we're weak because it's been so easy for so long. And that's what makes me wonder if we're going to stay number one for very long. I think we're on a path to let China, because China's hungry, dude. And the Chinese people are used to working hard. They're used to really grinding. And so their sense of discipline and ability to take on pain is a lot higher.
Yeah.
The only thing that I see as a huge weakness is they're communist. Everything hinges on the top.
Yes.
And the top disappears and they have a leader that can't quite. The same thing with Putin. If Putin dies tomorrow, like, I'm not sure if Russia will be just as competent and powerful as it is today.
Yes.
So that's the only, there's so many. I mean, this is like all these alternate universes and outcomes that could take place. And one little thing can change everything, right? And so I don't try to, think about it too much. I look at it. I say, okay, if it goes this way, it can, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really help me. I don't think. Does it serve you? I don't know. Do you consider these things? Like, what happens if Putin dies? What happens if we become number two?
I think in in 2020, 2021, I thought through a lot of these things.
Yeah.
Like, what are the variables, potential outcomes?
It's never ending.
And it's never ending.
Yeah.
And it's not value to me unless I'm like paid to deliver content on that.
Right.
Right. And so I'm like, wow, I'm not getting paid to worry about all this. So I'm just going to build my business instead. So
Yeah.
I focus a lot less on, because I spent a lot of time in 2020, 2021 connecting even biblical prophecy to modern times and figuring out systems, structures, timelines, prophecies, figuring out how things are playing out. And I got a pretty good worldview from that. However, I stopped studying it because I feel like I feel like there's not much more value in seeking deeper.
No.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Other than being a distraction.
Yeah.
So I don't have a massive pulse on what's happening.
Yeah.
I'm not following every move simply because I'm on mission to build my business, build my family.
Same. Sometimes I do wonder, dude, like, what if I lose my clients? What if the business goes down? And I always think to myself, at the core, entrepreneurship, the way it works is we all spend money, dude.
Yeah.
We will always continue to spend money. So money will circulate. My job is to find ways to make it circulate to me.
Yes.
How can I get you to give me your money for something in return? And as long as I can be clever enough to get that, to be able to do that and add value so I can get your money and people's money, I'm always going to have money. So no matter if AI rolls around, robotics, whatever it may be, if an asteroid hits Earth, people will continue to spend money.
Yes.
So if they're spending money, there's no reason why they are not spending it, on whatever I sell.
Yes.
So to me, that gives me assurance from a logical perspective, that everything's going to be fine. I don't know if you ever worry about that.
I think from a scarcity perspective,
Yeah.
yes, I do believe that resources are pretty much infinite.
Yes.
Is a belief that I have.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people don't wrap their head around that or
Yeah.
grasp that. To me, it's true enough for me to believe. And if I believe it, then I don't get into a scarcity space.
Right.
I feel like anyone can make just about as much as they want, which is just the pretty much it's hyper capitalist.
Right.
In thinking, in the way of thinking. Like I feel like there's an abundant for everyone if we put our minds together and do our part and work together. So I think I believe very, very similarly.
I think it's less important if it's true or not. It's if it serves you or not.
Yeah.
So if that belief serves you, then go for it,
Right.
Like Tate says, I don't believe depression exists. If I don't believe it exists, I'll never be depressed. He goes, if I reason and try to I'll probably agree that it does exist, but it doesn't serve me. So why agree with you that
Fair.
depression is a thing? So if you believe resources are not finite and that anyone can make money, then so be it, man. But yeah, that's how I see it. So you find ways to you talk a lot about anchoring. So when you're anchoring it to a belief that allows you to continue to move forward. And I try to do the same. Money continues to circulate.
Yeah.
There's no reason why it doesn't circulate towards me.
Yeah.
Because I think I'm smart and creative enough to be able to add value to get that money.
That's beautiful.
So yeah, man, it's certainly interesting, everything that's happening. I'm curious what's going to happen, end of 2025, going on to 2026. But I do think, the U.S. may not be what, we've grown up seeing it as, And another interesting thing, dude, like everyone before us, I don't think have gone through as many seasons and phases. I feel like everything's speeding up so
Yeah, I
quickly,
do
dude.
too.
Like, dude, I remember like dial-up internet, smartphones and everything that's happening. It's almost like unreal. Like,
Yes.
is this a dream or something? Because everything is going so quickly, and it makes you wonder what it will be like by the time we're, about to, die, and then our kids, what their lives are going to be like.
Yes.
Maybe they'll be living in space or something.
Yes.
So who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah.
It's definitely going to be strange. I mean, this now I'm getting cuckoo on here, but I don't know that from my biblical worldview, I don't know that we're going to be on this earth extremely much longer.
Yeah.
I think that we're kind of we're coming to the end of this age.
Yeah.
And so I'm just excited to be alive at
So
the
you
end of
think
the
the
age.
end times are coming?
I do.
Like in our lifetime?
I do. I think we've been in the end times since Christ died, and I think we've been
that's
in,
a long time.
We've been in that's the end the end times, and I think we've been in the end of the end times since 1948.
Well, that's also a long time. So so if it's the same time period, so how much longer do you think?
So, I believe in the scripture. It says we don't know the day or the hour. So there's nothing that we can know, but we are expected to know the times and the seasons, as
Right.
Jesus says.
But if I know you can't, you're not predicting, you're not giving a date, but you're like, I feel like my instinct tells me between 50 to 200 years. Is if what are you thinking?
Israel became a nation in 1948, which was a fulfillment of biblical prophecy.
Interesting.
Like the first ancient civilization to ever die and then come back.
Yeah.
It fulfills the dry bone prophecy and the fig tree prophecy, which the prophecy was this generation will not fully pass away until all of these things have taken place, which is the returning of the Messiah, the second coming of Christ.
Right.
Which is to say, in context of timeline,
Yeah.
there will be someone who saw Israel come back in 1948 that will also see the second coming of Christ. So if you think, okay, if that person was
I didn't know that. So you're saying that same person within their same lifetime, they would have seen Israel become a country and also the return
Christ's
of the
return.
Messiah.
Yes.
Interesting.
So if we're taking that scripture practically, literally.
Yeah.
And so a lot of strange things, Eric,
Yeah.
began to happen in 1948. You know when UFO sightings started?
Really?
1948.
Huh. Mm-hmm. So
exploded.
UFO is such an interesting topic. I manage Andrew Bustamante's channel.
Okay.
And he's done a lot of stuff for Discovery and History Channel about UFOs. And then he goes and he's very analytical. So he starts measuring energy and all these things. And there's very odd things that take place in certain places. What is your take on UFOs and the fact that they started during that time period?
Yeah.
And how you're connecting the dots? What do you think it is?
Okay. Do you have an opinion yet or a stance?
I think,
Or is it loose?
it's loose. I'm not married to anything.
I think everything's real. I think it's all real.
But real in the sense that green men living in other planets, or are they spirits? Are they angels? Are they demons? What are we talking about?
Are you wanting to go here?
Let's
on
do
Grit
it, dude.
Podcast?
Let's do it, bro.
Now, I'll tell you what, like I've spent years and years and years studying the Bible to fully understand it.
Yeah.
Like everything, even the uncommon, the strange stuff that people don't like to talk about. And this being one of those things. So I believe that the UFOs or the aliens are a completely spiritual entity.
Okay.
So, okay, do we know of anything? Because my worldview comes from the Bible. So,
Sure.
how can I go there first to match up with present times? So, people are seeing UFOs. People are, even now, after 1948, having beings come in their room, maybe abduct them, do experiments on them, maybe, and then have sexual encounters. Have you heard about that?
I have not heard about
People
that.
having sexual encounters. They're
aliens.
coming doing sexual experiments on them. Yes.
Wow.
Okay, so now this is about to get whack. You ready?
Okay.
Genesis chapter 6 talks about
Nephilim?
how you know how they came into existence?
Angels with humans.
Yeah. So angels that rebelled against God,
Yeah.
which are not intergalactic beings. They're interdimensional beings.
Correct.
Which they can shift dimensions.
Yeah.
Right. Come into our dimension. Have
Help
relations.
me structure this in my brain.
Yeah.
When you say spiritual entities, are these demons?
No.
Like fallen angels? Are they?
They're different.
Okay, so this is a completely different race of supernatural beings.
Yeah. The fallen angels are not demons. A lot of people think
Really?
they are.
Okay, so
Yeah.
what are they?
So fallen angels are basically angels that turned away, or dark angels.
Okay. So
Demons
what's
come.
their job?
Demons come later. So they followed Lucifer.
Okay.
In rebellion against God. 1/3 of the angels. If we take like the 1/3 of the stars fell, if we take
Right.
that literally, and they joined Lucifer in rebellion against God, and then sinned against God by having relations with women.
I see.
So the world was so corrupt at that point that women were into stuff like this.
Right.
Okay. And back then, I know like Rogan and stuff talk a lot about how advanced we were.
Yeah.
Back in those days, there was a lot of interconnectedness, right? Our world was very different. We think about the building of the pyramids, Atlantis, all these cities.
Oh.
The world looked a lot different, and I believe was far more advanced than
Yeah.
what we would think of it being.
Right.
Stone Age carving stuff.
Yeah.
And so the world got to a corruption place where women are doing this and having relations with fallen angels. These angels sin against God by doing this.
I mean, but can they do anything about it? I mean, when you got a freaking 7-foot, spiritual entity that's trying to do something to you, I mean, I don't think the women can't say no, right?
I think, in my opinion, we have free will to say no to anything as human beings. So I believe they did sin against God. So what happened in Genesis chapter 6 is they had offspring.
Okay.
And the offspring were hybrid beings, which
Okay.
is from our Greek mythology. We get our Hercules, our
Right.
giants, all of these things, the Titans.
Okay.
Okay. It's all through mythology in almost every single culture. This is where the demigod comes from.
Okay.
Like even Maui from Moana, right?
I haven't watched it, but okay.
So like it's the demigod concept, half God, half man.
Interesting. Okay.
Everyone's kind of obsessed with.
What about the animals and human? Like, are they doing this with animals, or that's just Greek mythology?
There's evidence to believe that happened. Okay, and I do believe, but it's not as concrete.
Okay. But you do believe?
I do believe.
Okay.
Yeah, I do believe they're messing around there too.
Okay.
And so they produce an offspring. They called them the Nephilim of the giants.
Right, which the Bible talks about.
Yeah, the Bible talks about, and they were the men of renown.
Right.
They were worshipped in some form,
Correct.
and there have been findings of their bones.
Do you think
throughout
that's
the world.
why the flood took place, to get rid of them?
Oh, with certainty.
Okay.
With certainty.
So it wasn't because humans were sinning, because we've always been sinning.
Yes.
It was because they were there and God was trying to kind of get rid of that race.
A lot of theologians, including myself,
Yeah.
believe that giants were populating. They began to take over.
Yeah.
And this was actually, we believe that there was a prophecy that the seed of the woman would crush the head of the serpent. Okay, which means that Jesus was going to come through the line of a woman.
Right.
So whatever God does, Satan counterfeits.
Okay.
So he creates his own Antichrist spirit.
Okay.
To basically wash out the gene pool so that this can't happen. This prophecy can't take place. So the world becomes more and more flooded and populated with these hybrid beings.
Okay.
And humans become more and more scarce. So the scriptures say, you want to hear my basis for it, that Noah was righteous in his generations.
He was purebred.
A lot of people think he was righteous, so God
Yeah.
chose him. No, the scripture says no one is righteous.
Yeah.
But he was righteous in his generations. He was his family was one of the only purebred families.
Yeah.
So God wasn't necessarily just bringing judgment on humanity. He was saving humanity from Satan's demonic attack. So here's what happens. You asked like where demons come from,
Sure.
right? Now this is like this is a Jewish belief. A lot of Christians don't. I'm not sure if they get on with this perspective. More and more are now. I do.
Okay.
I do. Flood came. What happens? So this is a hybrid being. So when they die, these giants died, which I believe this set of them died in the flood.
Yeah.
Which were like the extreme, really big giants. Then they die. So their soul is, where does their soul go? Like, does it go to, it can't go to heaven because it's not human. It's outside of the covenant.
It just roams.
It just roams. And this is a spirit that's filled with anger. Scripture says in Genesis before, the world was filled with violence and rage and anger, right? So these are just angry beings.
Yeah.
Not hyper intelligent,
Right.
impulsive, reactive beings that are essentially, they might see themselves as the rejected bastards of God.
Right.
Which, who do they hate? God's true children, which is humanity.
Because he chose us. Okay.
Yeah.
Got
So
it.
the scripture talks about how unclean spirits is what they're called.
Yeah.
Now they're roaming the earth, waiting until judgment day. And that's why when Jesus comes and he's casting demons out, they're like, wait, it's not our time yet.
Yeah.
We still get to roam.
Right.
You can't cast. And so Jesus.
So how does the
casting those
devil
pigs.
have a connection to these guys?
This is his strategy to overthrow humanity. So right now, the demons, which are the giants, just disembodied spirits,
Yeah.
as wild as that sounds, are in subjection to the devil and the fallen angels. So demons, in my opinion, aren't very intelligent. They're not very intelligent. They're impulsive.
Why can't the demons? Why can't the fallen angels do what the demons do?
How do you mean?
Meaning, if because the Bible talks about demons going into people, right?
Yeah.
Making them do crazy things. Why can't the fallen angels do that? Why does it need to be through them? Is that something that you say I can't explain it because we can't understand the physics of different dimensions?
They can, because we do know in Scripture that Satan entered Judas, and Satan's a fallen angel.
Interesting. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
But there aren't. I think that there are a lot more demons than there are angels.
Interesting.
Right?
Okay.
And a lot of them are locked up.
Yeah.
And they're not going to be released until the end times. And some of them are going to be released when I think the Euphrates River dries up. Is what Scripture says.
Right.
Which is happening. Interestingly enough.
And it says that it's interesting because I've read this and I'm not as knowledgeable with it as you are. But I remember reading one thing that made me say, "What the hell?"
Yeah.
It said the end would come, we would go to heaven, everything would be perfect, and 100 years later we're going back to what it used to be. That that the devil would be released to deceive the world again
After 1,000 years.
Was it 1,000? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really strange. And they don't teach that in Sunday school.
Right. They don't.
It's to deceive the earth, and there's going to be a whole war again.
Yeah, it just keeps going on again.
Yeah. And then there's the new heavens and new earth established after that.
Interesting.
So,
Here's another thing from a logical standpoint that doesn't make sense to me. And these are the things, I'm just curious, I think it's entertaining, but to me it doesn't change my decisions one way or another. But when you say that's the devil's strategy,
Yeah.
and then so it failed, right? Because the flood came, they destroyed everybody, and Jesus still came. to me, dude, I'm not that smart, and I know that, dude, if God is wanting to do something, there's nothing you can do to stop it. So why does the devil believe that he can all this effort and all these years to, put up this strategy that's never going to work? Why not just say, hey, listen, I'm just going to not try to,
Just give in.
Yeah, just give in. I mean, really. So what's your thought on that? Why do you think he continues, in your belief, to be so committed to his cause?
Do you think that he would have rebelled against God? Do you think he would have if he thought he couldn't win?
Maybe not, but I feel like you lose once and then you realize, okay, yes, we're not the same.
At one point, we do know, because he did rebel, he thought he could win.
Yeah.
So at some point, he got into a place of pride, ego,
Right.
where he thought he could overthrow God.
Right.
Right? The creator of the universe. So if he thought it once, he can think it again.
Okay.
So I go with that logic. Secondly, okay, a lot of people think, less people think that he thinks he can win now.
Right.
Okay. I'm more along the lines of thinking of, I hate God so much that I'm going to do as much damage as possible up until Judgment Day.
Interesting.
And take as many of God's creation, hurt him as much as he can, because he so loves humanity.
Wow. Well, that is a dude. This just went from China tariffs to end times, but it's fascinating, dude, because I do believe there's a lot that's connected to it. So I'm curious to see how this rolls out, man.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, no coincidences. What's happening in the Middle East?
Right.
So maybe all of this is bedtime stories. Who knows?
Who knows, dude?
But I'm keeping an open mind.
Does it change what you do?
It does.
Really?
It does. I'm like, for example, the world was corrupted through genetic mutation and manipulation. We're getting into that now on a deep level. And
With cloning?
with cloning, with integrating DNA of different animals. Whenever something becomes a person is no longer human when their DNA is shifted by 1%.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm not messing with that.
What about the how do you feel, last question before we go into another rabbit hole, the thing that helps people have kids when they can't have them normally, and you can even pick the gender. What is it called? The thing that Trump just made, that he said he was going to make it, affordable. It's like $30,000 if you can, if you're having fertility issues, you take this thing, and then
What is it called?
IVF, or what is it?
I think
Is it
something
IVF?
like that.
Okay, yeah.
Now, a lot of Christians are against that.
Yeah.
Really, really against that. Now, I will say I have not studied and looked into it enough
Right.
to form a strong stance. And I think the reason is because there's a lot of discard that happens, or maybe it's I'm not sure at what stage and how this actually works or plays out.
Yeah.
But I have heard that there are ways to do it safely and not make that happen. I've known of people who have done it and have kids through it. So I don't know that I have a strong enough opinion on it because I haven't researched it or felt it enough personally. So I think that's where I'll stand there.
Okay. Yeah, no, I just found it interesting. I don't have anything against it myself, but it's always interesting to hear a different perspective.
Yeah.
But no, this is fascinating, man. So in conclusion, what can we take away from all this information, everything that you've been reading? You grew up in church, so have I. You know a lot more than I do, though. Yeah. You've been in it you went deep into the scripture. I probably didn't go as much, but I'm curious to see how these things connect. So people that are watching this, maybe they are Christian, maybe they're not. What's something that anyone can walk away with, though, as we enter in these turbulent times? Because this is a fact. We're going through some economic hardship. Yeah. What can we do to make the most of it?
Don't have sex with aliens.
That's a fact.
Step number one.
Yeah.
No, and I think be hyper aware that of what you're putting into your body, what you're injecting into your body.
Yeah.
And you need to protect that like it's the temple. Like it's your temple, your sacred temple in space.
Right. Yeah.
Do your research before you're injecting any sort of vaccine, supplement, anything of that nature. I think we need to be hyper prudent and aware. Because the governments do think of us more as commodities than people, unfortunately.
Right. Interesting.
So, and second, man, if you haven't determined, you're undecided on faith, I'd say like seek out what you believe. Like
I think that's a strong one, dude.
I think dig deep and find out what you actually believe. Like everything I just shared, I'm like, don't just take it at face value. jump in there and learn. Try and figure it out and piece it together.
Yeah.
And it'll give you a sort of, when you find that, you'll give you a confidence to kind of base your life off of.
Yeah. Cool.
So,
I like it, man. I think that's a strong one. If you ask me, that's probably it, man. Because the one thing that keeps me steady is my faith.
Yes.
I can't explain it, but I just choose to believe it. I was raised with it, but I've tested it over time, dude. It's not something that is my upbringing or anything like that. I really truly believe that this is the best way to live.
Yeah.
And again, I can't explain it. So if you're looking for something that can be explained A to Z, I don't think there's anything that can be explained A to Z.
Right.
So again, it's what serves me. And what serves me is believing that there's a God that loves me, that put me here for a reason. And so if that is true, then no matter what happens, that purpose needs to be fulfilled. Yes. And so as long as I'm in alignment with that God, I'm going to continue to move forward. It may not be easy all the times, but I will be moving forward nonetheless.
Right. What you just described was what the scripture would call it as a peace that surpasses understanding.
Sure.
You can hardly articulate it or understand it. You just have it.
Yes.
You know that hell comes, heaven comes, you're good.
Exactly.
And you can fight in the shade.
And that's right. And you can only do that if you have faith. So that was great.
Right.
Awesome. All right, brother.
Fun conversation.
Hell yeah. Thanks for coming, bro.
If you enjoyed this episode, click here to watch another episode, or click here to watch a clip from the podcast.
And we're down we go.